Hello, good afternoon. My name is Saira Latif. I'm a law student at the University of Indiana Law School, Indianapolis, and I'm just going to do the invocation today. I'm going to begin with the Arabic and then read the English translation. Inna Allaha ya'murukum an tu'addu al-amanati illa alayha wa idha hakumtum bayna an-nasi an tahkumu bi'adl inna Allaha ni'ama ya'idakum bihi inna Allaha kana samian basiran. And the translation is, God commands you to give back to those the trust and those who you judge. And when you judge between people, judge them with fairness. This is the 58th verse of the 4th chapter, entitled The Women. Thank you.
मैंने सेट कर दिया
शुक्रिया बहुत बहुत
नहीं मैंने स्टार्ट करना
ये मैं आ गया मैं ताकि वो
ठीक है
Well, we're going to begin the program. So you should continue eating during the festivities. My name is John Clark. I'm the director of the Cold Spring Institute, which is a new think tank established in part with the Muslim Alliance of Indiana. And I'd like to welcome all of you here. We're going to have two important awards, or one important award given to two different people and organizations, and then we'll have our speakers speak, and after that we'll have some questions. So that's the rough order of the day. First, I would like to invite the treasurer of the Muslim Alliance of Indiana, Azhar Khan, to come up to make an important award, the Saeed Saeed Award. Dr. Khan, please.
Good afternoon. I hope you like the lunch. If you don't, I have nothing to do with it. The Jewish Community Relations Council is the public affairs, advocacy, and intra-group relations arm of the Indianapolis Jewish community. The JCRC is a group that not only works to foster a secure environment to the Jewish community, but also fights for the human rights and justice for all people. In early September, the JCRC demonstrated this commitment by responding to the wave of bigotry and hate directed at Islam and Muslims in the United States that resulted from the proposed site of the Islamic Center in the New York City. The group distributed an interfaith statement that issued a call for the action of deeper understanding and mutual respect. It was unanimously passed by the JCRC and signed by many leaders of religious leaders in the city. I would like to share with you the final two paragraphs of their statement. Quote, "At this difficult time, we ask people of all faith to take concrete steps to reach out to Muslims and members of the other faith, to host events and joint projects that will build relationships and promote mutual understanding. We asked all Americans of goodwill to join us in countering the current wave of bigotry and hate by coming together to create our own wave of deeper understanding, mutual respect, and common action for the goodwill of all, In this spirit, we commit ourselves to speak and act according to the vision of religious liberty set forth in our Constitution and urge our fellow citizens to do the same." End quote. Today, we have joined to recognize, thank, and celebrate them for taking a stand against anti-Islam activity that threaten the peaceful existence of all Muslims throughout America. In our 5 daily prayer, Muslims, we offer tidings to our brothers of the Abrahamic faith. It is my honor and privilege to do this publicly today. I am also honored to be part of the ceremony and will now happily present the Dr. M. Saeed Award to the JCRC. This award is named after Dr. Saeed. He has been an active involvement in fostering understanding among world religions and has participated in interfaith dialogue at all different levels in the US and Canada. A frequent speaker at Interfaith Dialogue. He has also served as a member of the Board of Trustees for the Council of Parliament of the World's Religions. In his new position in Washington, D.C., he has the Islamic Society of North America Office of Interfaith and Community Alliance. Please join me in round of applause for the actions taken by our brothers and sisters in the Jewish Relations Council, Community Council. At this point, I would like to request David Vonnegut Begovich, past president of JCRC and current president of Jewish Federation, to accept this award.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. On behalf of the JCRC and the Jewish community, I'd like to say how honored we are to receive this award for our continuing efforts for peace and understanding among all religions and all faiths. So thank you very much.
I was wondering, is there an award? Wonderful. Can we get it? Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Next, I'd like to ask Dr. Ibad Ansari to come up to give another Saeed Award to an important recipient.
Hello, good afternoon. I would like to recognize Reverend Ken Millard. He has been a leader at St. Luke's United Methodist Church, which has been leader in interfaith and other coalition building activities. When the pastor in Florida came to announce that he will burn Quran, Reverend Ken Millard was among the leaders in Indianapolis who opposed it uniquely. And we recognize his effort. All these years he has been building coalition with us. I would request Reverend to come over, please. Thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you.
One over here too. Okay.
Wow. Oh, wonderful.
Sorry, it's right here.
Oh, okay. I would like to say a word of appreciation and thanks for this very distinguished honor. And to Dr. Saeed, I am so humbled and grateful for the opportunity to work on interfaith relations. It started a long time ago for me when I was in college in South Dakota. My roommate one year was named Mohammed Musa from Palestine. And when he got to our college and we got into the room, the first question he asked me, which way should I bow to pray towards Mecca? Now think about it. If you're in the middle of South Dakota and Mecca is in Saudi Arabia, which way should you bow? So we had to get a globe and said that we figured kind of over the North Pole was shortest. So he was very faithful in offering his prayers, 5 times a day in his devout Muslim tradition. What I noticed is one morning, he'd always get up early in the morning and pray. And I would be lying in bed listening to that, and I thought, this is interesting. Mohammed is studying business, and he gets up to pray. I'm planning to be a minister, and I'm sleeping in. What's wrong with this picture? So I decided that whenever Mohammed prayed, I would pray. And so I would pray some Christian prayers whenever he was praying his prayers. So I learned the discipline of prayer from my Muslim roommate in college, which has helped me all through my life. So I've always been a strong believer in prayer, and I think I learned it mostly from my Muslim roommate. I also want to say a word of thanks to Bilal Eskali and the Holy Dove Foundation, now the Niagara Foundation, because I've gone twice to Turkey and had the experience of having incredible hospitality in Muslim families' homes that was beyond anything I could ever have expected. So I just am so appreciative of those opportunities. So in coming back here, I feel it a high privilege to work in Jewish, Christian, Muslim, Hindu, Buddhist relationships together in the Interfaith Hunger Initiative, where we work together to feed hungry people in Indianapolis and in Kenya. So I just want to say thank you for the honor and privilege of being in your presence and for this special award. Thank you very much.
Sharik asked me as MC to pull things together now and then move into our speakers. So here's how I'll pull it together. The director of the Jewish Community Relations Council, Marcia Goldstone, couldn't be here today. I'm sure she has a very good excuse. But her son was an intern of mine when I was at the Hudson Institute, Peter Goldstone. Our second speaker today, Francine Friedman, her son was an intern of mine at Hudson Institute. Back in the day when Sharik Siddiqui was a student at the University of Indianapolis, he was almost an intern of mine. So all things come together with all of these sons who have such distinguished parents and are so much more successful than I am. Well, I'll introduce Francine Friedman and then ask Sheikh Salih Habimana to come up and speak. Francine Friedman is a professor of political science at Ball State University. She's one of my longest-term friends here in Indianapolis. For years, Francine's been one of my heroes in her work in researching Bosnia. She wrote an excellent book on the Bosnian Muslims, and perhaps an even better book on the creation of a Bosnian nation. But the research that has intrigued me the most is what she'll talk about today, which is research onto the Jews of Bosnia and the Jews of Sarajevo. Francine's an important scholar, but she's also taken a group that's slowly disappearing and creating a record of it that's very important. We get to be part of that record, a group that has a long history in Bosnia, a history of heroism, and I'm looking forward to hearing from Francine Friedman. But after we have our first speaker, who's Sheikh Salih Habimana, the Mufti of Rwanda. Mufti Habimana is on his second term as an elected Mufti. I was trying to figure out the politics as a political scientist of how you get to be chosen, and it sounds like it's even tougher than going through the primaries here in the United States. So it's an elected position. For almost 15 years now, the Muslims of Rwanda have been an important story, an important part of one of the terrible chapters of the last part of the 20th century. A genocide that broke out in Rwanda, in which the world stood by in a way that disturbs many of us. The Muslims in Rwanda were essentially given a get out of the genocide free card. They were exempted from this, but at great risk to themselves. They protected both Tutsis, moderate Hutus. This is a great story, and the story continues. Rwanda now is trying to step beyond this divided identity of Hutus versus Tutsis to create an identity of Rwandans, and the Muslims of Rwanda are an important part of that story. And so I'd like to give a very, very heartfelt welcome to the Mufti of Rwanda.
أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين والصلاة والسلام على خاتم الأنبياء المرسلين صلى الله عليه وعلى أصحابه وأهل بيته والتابعين ونحن جميعا إلى يوم الدين. We glorify the Almighty Allah for affording us this wonderful opportunity in which I'm able to come and share with you, brothers and sisters, the story of faith in my country, Rwanda. But first of all, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi ta'ala barakatuh. May peace and blessings be upon all of us. Thanks to Muslim Alliance of Indiana for inviting me to be part of this wonderful convention. Again, thanks to my brother Sharik Siddiqui. We met for the first time 5 years ago in Sudan. It was about African American Muslim leaders' mission to Darfur. So his quest for peace and mine too, we met in Darfur, and here we are meeting again at his homeland. I hope and pray that we meet before the end of this year in my country. I would like to talk as planned about faith as a resource in fighting against violence. But the question will be, which faith? The question will always be, which faith? The answer from the Quran will teach us by saying, أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم فلا تزكوا أنفسكم هو أعلم بمن اتقى. So ascribe not purity to yourselves. Allah knows best him who obeys Allah most. Quran chapter or surah An-Najm verse 32. Here you see Almighty God telling us that do not ascribe purity to you alone. As you know, we Africans were very good in telling some tales. Now, 3 people or 3 prophets, the last 3 Abrahamic faiths, Moses, Jesus, and Muhammad, may peace be upon all of them. The followers of the prophets, each one claimed to have a paradise for himself. So the first one dies, believing in Judaism. And he went to Allah, Almighty God. He told him, have a room number 1, but don't make noise while in the room. The second one to die was a believer in Christianity. He went to Allah, Almighty God. He told him, go to room 2, but make sure by passing room 1, don't make noise. And while in your room 2, don't also make noise. Now, the third one to die was a believer in Islam. He went to Allah Almighty God, and Allah told him, go to room number 3, but by passing 1 and 2, don't make noise. While in 3, make sure you're not making noise. Now, Hindus and Sikhs, you name it. Everybody who comes, Allah will tell him, go to room number 4, for instance, but by passing 1 and 2 and 3, don't ever make noise. And the 5th and the 6th, just like that. At the time of the meal, as we are together right now here, now everybody was wondering, what was going on? We were taught to never make noise. And they're questioning Almighty Allah. They say, now tell us, you told us to never make noise. And he said, you know, those Abrahamic faiths, Jews and Christians and Muslims, they claim to have paradise for their own. That's why, by passing them, I wanted nobody should make noise so that nobody will know that there's somebody else apart from Jews and Christians and Muslims in paradise. So Almighty God is so kind enough really to have us all in paradise. Think about yourself, 100 years ago, you were not here. But you are here today. We are sharing a meal with somebody who came from Africa, in the middle of Africa, in the jungle of Africa. But who were you? How can Almighty God be so stingy to never have us all on the same table in paradise, really? It is about how much you save humanity, which will make you somebody special to be able to enter paradise. Blessed are the peacemakers because they will be called children of God. This is the Bible. And Quran tells you, verily Allah does not forbid from dealing justly with those who fought you not on the account of your faith. Be kind to them. Allah loves those who deal in equity. So these are the teachings. But now the question will be, which faith now? So I say all faiths can resist violence. The story of Muslims of Rwanda goes back to understanding, first of all, what is Rwanda. Rwanda is a very small country, only 27 square kilometers, squeezed between Burundi in south, Uganda in north, Tanzania in east, the big Congo in west. But as small as it is, kind enough to host the last families of mountain gorillas. Do visit Rwanda to be able to visit and see the mountain gorillas, not the King Kong of the movies. In reality, you'll be able to see these animals, this creation of Allah, in reality. And yet the same country suffered a lot. Muslims arrived in Rwanda back in 1894 or 96. All in all, it will be 4 or 6 years before the arrival of Christianity. Muslims came with German army. They were able to drive cars, and they were able also to eat nice food. As a result, the Tutsi ladies were willing to marry those foreigners who came from South Sudan, Tanzania, and Uganda. And whoever got married to these people, he was able to live smartly. That's one of the reasons why in our mother language, Kenya Rwanda, we have introduced a word, umusirimu, as a smart person. Somebody on suit like that one day, in my country will be called umusirimu, meaning a smart person. But normally the word is umusirimu, meaning a Muslim. So the Muslims of those days, they're so smart. Now, if you come to 1959, at the first start, or the first test of genocide in my land, Muslims were there to rescue those people in need. Because Muslims had cars, especially old cars. Because at the departure of German people, arrival of the Belgian people under the UN, these old trucks of the German army were left behind, and there was nobody else to drive the trucks except a Muslim. So these Muslims, they had the trucks in their hands. So those people in need in 1959, leaving their country for Uganda, Tanzania, and Kenya, and elsewhere in the region, because they were kicked by the Hutus from their land, Muslims were there to rescue them. The last king who moved from my country, Kigeri V, he moved on the mercy of the Muslims of that time because they had the trucks. So the genocide was going on and on and on, every 5 to 10 years, genocide, small genocides. At the biggest blow of 1994, Muslims behaved the same because it was history repeating itself again. Muslims were there to rescue and help those people in need. But again, you ask yourself, why Muslims? Muslims because we are the only product of intermarriage in my community. The biggest number of our mothers are Tutsis. Because Muslims, you know, they like beautiful ladies. And they go for sometimes for more than one. So they were looking for beautiful ladies, and they were going for Tutsi ladies. Very skinny and tall, you know. Now, being the product of intermarriage, they were not ready to kill their own mothers-in-law and brothers-in-law. And again, the resistance of Muslims during genocide goes back to how we were treated in our land. Because by law of 1925, brought by Wat fathers, it had 4 bullets. Number 1, As you embrace Islam in the morning, you lose your citizenship in the afternoon. You're a second-class citizen there and there. Number two, while losing your citizenship, then you're not allowed to have a land. Instead, on rental basis, and only 20 meters by 20 meters, and you are not allowed to carry out third bullet. You are not allowed to carry out any business on the same land. If you do, then you pay taxes more than a Christian. And the last one, you're not allowed education after primary education. So we lived like that, and after independence, Hutu regime which took over, it was not any good. We lived the same life. So in 1994, we had no any reason really to support regimes which were there to kill us, to keep us in the slums. Muslims were kept in the slums in our own home. Each and every slum, next to it, you'll have a barracks, controlling the movement of the Muslims within the barracks. Now, Muslims were there to rescue people because they had more than one reason to sideline with the Tutsis. Not knowing that maybe one day a president will be Kagame, who is a Tutsi by those description. But today, we have decided to be all Rwandese. Thin or tall or short, we're all Rwandese. Now, this is the story of Muslims in Rwanda. Now, if you ask me, Siddiq asking me to talk about the fairs as a resource to fight against violence, I'll agree with him. But stopping violence is so easy than stopping cycle of revenge which will breed violence. For that one, you need a heart of a lion. Not a lion in the zoo here, the lion of Africa, which lives freely in the bush. You need the heart of the lion to be able to forget that your own child once upon a time was crushed against the wall just because it's a Tutsi. You need the heart of the lion to be able to forgive somebody who raped your sister to death and pressing the tree from her private parts to here. You need the heart of the lion to be able to forgive somebody who destroyed the entire village with a machete. You need the heart of the lion to be able to forgive somebody you bought once upon a time a bullet from him to kill your own father, because you don't want to see your father bleeding to death. You see? So, first, as a resource to stop violence, first again becomes a resource to stop a cycle of revenge which breeds violence. Today, because some people are not ready to forgive, some people also, their countries are gone, like Somalia and elsewhere in Africa. Sometimes people who don't have a faith, they even feel it tough to forgive an individual. As a result, they punish collectively the followers of the same person. But you need to overcome this type of emotions which will drive you always to revenge. Revenge is not a solution at all. In Rwanda today, all our affairs, we have decided to make sure that we work collectively and we take collective responsibility towards genocide. Yes, each and every village, each and every district, each and every province of my country, unfortunately, we have a church hosting between 1,000 to 100,000 remains of our brothers and sisters, and it was mostly within the Catholic Church. But these are the people who abused Christianity, who abused the church to murder people within the church. Even if you don't have a single blood in the mosque, still we have decided after genocide, after 1994, to make sure we work together. And we take collective responsibility when it comes to genocide and genocide survivors. As a result, the head of a commission of bringing together genocide survivors, released prisoners, and families of prisoners is headed by the Anglican head of my country, and I'm his deputy. When it comes to HIV/AIDS and the right of a mother and a child at birth, is headed by a Catholic Archbishop of Rwanda. I'm his second in command. When it comes to peace, unity and reconciliation in my country, I'm the chairperson. My deputy is the Archbishop of Presbyterian Church of my land. As a result, this is the only and unique community on the globe where you have a mufti supporting archbishop, archbishop supporting a mufti. The archbishop of my country, he was able to ask the British embassy in my country to go through poverty reduction activities, and the embassy was ready to donate to my community 50,000 pounds. And we bought so many animals to go through the activities of poverty reduction activities. It is the only, I guess, I don't know anyone, it is the only community where American people, you American people, through your embassy in Kigali, you were able to construct 2 schools for my community. One in Kigali hosting 1,000 students, majority of them Muslims. One in east of my country accommodating 1,500 students. Both schools costing $175,000 US from you people here. This is the only community, I guess, on the planet. The German people the same, French people the same. So once you engage into working together as a faith, definitely the winner will be the first to give love. I'm in that regard a member, part and parcel of WCRP, World Conference on Religion for Peace. My best friend, Dr. William Vandley. I'm with him on a net, on a telephone, on a daily basis. I do visit this country almost twice a year through the same organization. I'm one of the muftis who don't go much to Arab countries, instead to America. I was in UK recently for 10 days, and from here I'll be going back to UK. But the beauty of it is what? At least I learned to speak English. Not only Arabic, you see. So once you give love, you'll be the first person to be blessed and have what it takes to be a human being. Now, before ending my remarks, because Sharik said it has to be very short, only 10 minutes, otherwise I could take you and on and on and on. Let me give you something to prove that whoever gives love will be the first one to benefit. I would like to have my Jew brother. I would like to have the one who introduced me to the podium here. I would like to have somebody original from my continent, Africa, but today American. Anybody, a lady, male, whatever. I have to have one here. You can volunteer to come here. And let me show you. Come, my sister. Come over. Come over. She's already coming. She's already coming. She's already there. She's already there. Oh, she's already here. Right. We'll hold the hands. Come up. We'll hold the hands and we'll squeeze ourselves hard and shout very hard. So whatever I tell you, don't add a word. Tell the same to my sister over there. I'm giving you true love.
Giving you true love.
Okay.
We start again. So whatever he say, you say the same. He tells you the same. You tell him the same.
I tell him. Okay.
Then he tells again. I'm giving you true love.
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 Back to me and through my heart. Right. Again. One more time. One more time. I'm giving you true love.
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 Very good. I'm the recipient of the love. And the next person, love ends in me and through my heart. Love ends in me and through my heart. And as a result, for my country, my faith, the entire universe, I will forever preach peace. May peace be upon you. Wassalamu alaikum.
going to talk a little bit about another growing population.
This is so not fair. This is a hard act to follow. I have a cheat sheet with me so that I will stay within my 10 or 15 minutes or 10 minutes or whatever, because when I start to speak about Bosnia, as my students know, I tend to go on tangents and remember things and go on and on and on, and we forget about the lesson and just talk about Bosnia. Can you hear me back there? Okay. A little bit. The second thing that's not fair is just to only spend 10 minutes on Bosnia, because there's so much that's interesting there, and particularly, in my humble opinion, about the Bosnian Jews. This is, as John said, and thank you so much for your very kind comments about me. Bosnian Jews are a very unique community. They are a community that seems to be slowly disappearing, and this is a shame because they have a very long and distinguished career in Bosnia for since the 15th century. Actually, we remember that the Bosnian Jews, the Sephardic Jews, originally came from Spain. They left in 1492, took a very circuitous route, and arrived in Bosnia, according to documents, in the middle of the 1500s, maybe 1565. Since they came to Bosnia, the Bosnian Jews have occupied a unique place in Bosnia throughout the centuries until this very day. Some unique things about their situation there. They were, I believe, the only European Jewish community that did not live in a ghetto, that was not forced into a ghetto during all the years that the Jews throughout Europe were living in ghettos. There was provided for them a small quarter. This was given to poor Jews. It was built by Siyavush Pasha, who welcomed the Jews to his city of Sarajevo, but they were not expected or forced to live there. This was for their convenience if they couldn't afford to live anywhere else in the city. The Jews of Bosnia had the capability of full participation in society in Bosnia under the Ottoman Empire, in social, political, economic, and cultural life. This was, however, not only under the Ottoman regime, but this was through every regime that Bosnia has lived under. Including Austria-Hungary for 40 years, including the first Yugoslav kingdom, including the communist Yugoslavia, not including, of course, the Holocaust. The Holocaust was particularly brutal in Bosnia. It was brutal everywhere, but it was particularly brutal in Bosnia, where 14,000 Jews lived in Sarajevo before World War II. Only 1,500 emerged from the concentration camps. So about 1/10 of the population survived the Holocaust. Once the survivors came out of the camps, many of them decided not to return to Yugoslavia, and they went to Israel, to the United States, to Canada, to Australia, to other places in Europe. Those who did stay, though, again, were fully integrated into the community. This was now a communist community, a communist-dominated community, which did not value religion very much. And so while the Jews remained Jews as much as they could, it wasn't as fully rich an environment for the Jewish people as it was before. I'm going to skip straight to the last war because I think that will tie in very nicely with our speaker. Because during the last war, and I use that term as the Bosnians use it, the last war is the war from 1992 to 95. During the last war, the Jews found themselves in a very peculiar position also. This is one of the few times in history where the Jews were not a target of ethno-national hatred or ethno-religious hatred. It's kind of weird, and they found it a little bit, they didn't find it unique because of the role that they had always played, but if we look at it from the outside, it's a rather unique situation. Not only, however, were they not the target of ethno-religious hatred, but they were in fact the target of philo-Semitism. Philo-Semitism in that all of the major national groups in Bosnia, and I'm talking about the Orthodox Serbs, the Croatian Catholics, and the Muslims, loved the Jews. Didn't just like them, loved the Jews. And this has been kind of the way that it's been throughout history, but even more so during the last war. Why? Fearing the war was coming, the Bosnian Jewish community began importing medicine. Not a couple of aspirin here and a little bit of different kinds of medicines, but tons and tons of medicine. Not food, medicine. And they kept hoarding this medicine until the war broke out. When the war broke out, they opened a pharmacy in the Jewish Community Center that was open to members of any religious group who had a legitimate doctor's prescription for free. No money changed hands, no money was expected. You come with your prescription and you get your medicine. The Jewish Community Center is built on one side of Sarajevo. Sarajevo is bisected by a river, and it has several bridges that connect both sides. People who were going across the bridge to the Jewish Community Center to get medicine were subjected to sniper attacks. Coincidentally from the Jewish cemetery, which was above Sarajevo. This is a whole other story. But anyway, so the Jewish community decided to move part of its medicines across the river so that people would no longer be subject, people who lived on the other side of the river would no longer be subject to grenades and sniper attack. And then they opened a third pharmacy. At some meeting, which I have yet to pin down, the leader of the Bosnian Jewish community met a Palestinian doctor who was at that time practicing in one of the suburbs of Sarajevo. He expressed interest in opening this pharmacy, a third pharmacy, and they gave him a bunch of medicine. So we had 3 pharmacies being operated by the Bosnian Jews for the benefit of Bosnian Serbs, Croats, and Muslims while they were under siege. There was one exit in and out of Sarajevo, a tunnel dug under somebody's garden all the way to a mountain, and so not very much was coming in or going out. They were a lifeline, a medical lifeline during that time. They also opened a soup kitchen. There is a picture in a book by Edward Sirota of the cook from the Bosnian Jewish Center. His name is Sitsko. That's not his real name. He's got wild white hair, a goatee, and a big hat, and he had this huge cauldron that anybody who had anything would come on a daily basis, throw it into the pot. He would stir it and make something. He used to own a restaurant before the war, okay? He fed something like 350 people a day. Most of them were not Jews. Didn't matter. Didn't have to show your religious card when you came in the door. We were all together in that. The other thing that I want to tell you that was so unique, and you know, stop me when my time is up, is that, and John, that was such a beautiful thing that you said, get out of genocide-free card. I hope you don't mind if I use that in my book. I never would have thought of that in a million years. But the Jews in Bosnia had a get out of genocide-free card too. So strange. They were given the possibility of leaving Sarajevo en masse. Some of them did. Mostly women and children were sent, and the elderly were sent on buses on a convoy out of Sarajevo. And I've seen photographs, heart-wrenching, heart-wrenching. People were saying goodbye to their families, never knowing if they would see them again. Their neighbors, Serbs, Muslims, Croats, were there to say goodbye to them, never knowing if they would see their neighbors again. The convoy was led out of town. There were a couple, but the biggest one, and the one that I want to talk about for just a minute, was led out of town by the president of the Bosnian Jewish community. His name was Ivan Čerišnić. It's a Hungarian name. On this convoy were Jewish women and children and a few elderly people, but also Serbs, Croats, and Muslims who were in danger, either in danger for health reasons or in danger because they were marked people. Ivan led them out of town, a series of buses, and they were stopped at checkpoints. A Serbian checkpoint that he told me about demanded that the Muslims on the buses be led out and given to the Serbs. We know why. And Ivan said, no. He says, I can't do that. I've also got Serbs, and I have Croats on the bus too. If I come to another checkpoint, am I supposed to give them, give your people to be killed by somebody else? He says, I can't do that. And for his pains, he got a rifle butt to his cheek. Continued on several miles to a Croatian checkpoint with the Muslims still on board. And the Croats demanded that the Serbs be brought out so that they could be taken away. And again, he refused. And for his pains, he got a rifle butt on his other jaw. And to this day, all those people got out, and he has prostheses in his face, both sides, that he has to change every 5 or 6 years. But he got all the people out. And that was his job, and that was his pleasure. In the aftermath of the war, the Bosnian Jewish community continues to maintain strong ties with all of the members of the community, all of the Serbs, all of the Croats, all of the Muslims. Until recently, nobody was, you could come to the door of the Jewish community, it was always open. And there was no security camera. They have now installed a security camera, the doors are still open. One of the few places in Europe where you can still walk into a synagogue, Jewish center without armed guards. I must say that there is not necessarily going to be a totally happy ending to this. I don't know, but every time I've gone there, which is for the last 12 years for the summer, things have not been getting better in Bosnia. There are some anti-Semitic manifestations, not a lot, and not official, but occasionally, and I found one myself that they hadn't seen. I saw some nasty graffiti that I pointed out to them. And they went and protested to the government, and it was erased and it was decried by the government. But we're still getting some small anti-Semitic manifestations, which has been deplored by the Muslim-dominated government of Bosnia. And together, even though there are still some tensions, the Bosnian Jews continue to be an integral part of Bosnia. However, the community is getting smaller and smaller, and the reason why I'm writing this book is to so that this community will not fade away and not be remembered. Thank you.
We have about 5 minutes for questions, and there should be a microphone right there. If you have a question for either Professor Friedman or for Mufti Habiman, I'll start with a question while you're walking up. Francine, tell us a little bit about the, I'm going to mispronounce it, Haggadah. This is an important part of Bosnian identity that the Jews are part of.
The Haggadah, or is a book that we use for Passover. But there's a special Haggadah in Sarajevo that is from possibly the 11th or 12th century. And it may have been a gift a wedding gift in the joining of two very important families in Spain. What's interesting about this book is that, after the Inquisition and the expulsion of the Jews, it was more or less lost until it appeared magically in Vienna in the late 19th century. It was refurbished and sent to Bosnia, and it has somehow continued to exist through various attempts to steal it. The Germans came into Sarajevo, to the Bosnian National Museum in Sarajevo, and tried to steal it, but the Muslim curator of the museum hid it. And we don't know where. There are 5 or 6 different stories, but he hid it from the Germans so they couldn't get a hold of it, from the Nazis. During the last war, in 1992 to 95, it was in a bank vault, hidden because some people wanted to take it. It is a Jewish book that has become a national, Bosnian national treasure.
It's a wonderful story. You can read a highly romanticized version of the story in a book by Geraldine Brooks called People of the Book. Or you could read the true story. I think Francine's written an article that hasn't been published. But it's a great story. The Jewish people are always going to be an essential part of that Bosnian identity because of that book. And it's a story of how the different faith communities came together to protect that important Jewish book.
Okay. My question is for Professor Friedman. Thank you for a very inspiring narrative. I recall in a history seminar that I took many years ago.
From John.
No, it was at the University of California at Berkeley, actually. There was a mention about how Muslims in Sarajevo and Bosnia during the horrible genocide of the Second World War were actually active in protecting the Jewish minority, with some success, I hope. Could you say more about that? Was there, in your research, have you come across this, what I've heard in this particular seminar? Thank you.
Yeah. That is partially true. From the research that I've done, I say it's partially true because Bosnians were in the partisans. Muslims, Croats, Jews, Serbs, they all went to the partisans. There were, however, some nasty people in all of the different religions. Well, the Jews were gone. They were all in concentration camps or something. But the Serbs were trying to kill Muslims and Croats. The Croats were trying to kill everybody. And there was a small group of Muslims who were tied in with the fascist Croats, and they were pretty nasty. However, Muslims, Croats, and Serbs, when they could, helped to protect anybody who was in trouble. Some Jews did make it out of World War II because they were hidden by Serbs, Croats, or Muslims. And Muslims were indeed, some Muslims did indeed save Jewish lives. As a matter of fact, there's a very famous story of the woman who, at risk to herself, Muslim woman at risk to herself, saved a family, and she is now living in Israel as an honored person in Israel. She's honored as a righteous Gentile, and a big deal was made about it because the Israeli government transported her to Israel, her and her family, because of how at risk of her own life during World War II, she and her family saved some Jewish families. So it's a mixed story, but yes, indeed, we can be proud of those stories that did exist.
Thank
you. This is a rare opportunity. Don't lose it. Do we have any other questions? I'd like then to ask the Mufti one question, which is, I understand that the Muslim population of Rwanda is increasing because of conversions. The people are converting to become Muslim, perhaps because of memories of 1994. Is that true? Because that would be one way in which these two cases really diverge. Because of this kind of unintended consequence of the Bosnian War, Bosnian Jews may no longer exist, by the end of this century. Because of the actions of the Muslims in Rwanda, Muslims are seen as attracting new converts. Is it true that people are converting to Islam in Rwanda?
Not really true by now, but it was after genocide immediately. Some people, like for instance, Hutu, was joining Islam, saying that once you join Islam and pray 5 times a day, everybody will say or admit that I don't have blood in my hands. So it was about purification from the Hutu side. Now, for Tutsis, it was like, once I joined this faith, I will never die in genocide because Muslims don't die in genocide. So it was about protection. Immediately after genocide, you had so many cases of people joining Islam, having those reasons behind. But since we have got one of the, I guess and I believe, one of the best governments in the region, very powerful leader, Paul Kagame, who is there to never punish anybody for the mistake of somebody else. Everybody is comfortable. A Hutu says, no, I'm going back to my Christianity because I'll never be punished for genocide which was committed by somebody else. As a result, we see people going back again to their Christianity. And the Tutsi also, at least having Kagame or not having Kagame, we have something valuable as Rwandese people. You are who you are, and you are proud of yourself, being a Hutu or Tutsi or a Muslim or a Christian. So we don't have a problem any longer, which can convince people to join any faith. And again, it's not true because, you know, in Africa, normally you join any faith due to some gainings, or some hands-out, some aid. People will be joining, for instance, any faith for medication or education, of which you don't have most of them. Education and health facilities in my country, up to 70% is in the hands of Christians of my land, but to access them no longer a problem. As a result, we don't have any people, or many people joining Islam because we don't have those type of facilities. And the last one, we have decided in Rwanda, as faith leaders, to never fight for followers. Never. Never fight for followers. Instead, do good to everybody, provide services, and whoever wishes to join any faith is free to join. So it was a case immediately after genocide, is no longer a case today.
I have a question for Professor Friedman. Thank you again for your nice talk. I just want, since you mentioned that you have visited Bosnia almost every year since the last 12 years, and I just wanted to see what is your assessment on the
circles of support. And how this works is that, you know, once a person is stable, they're out of shelter in some sort of stable housing, they can go through a class, it's called Getting Ahead. It's a 16-week course. And then at the end of that time, if they choose to be, they can be matched into a circle, which is 2 or 3 allies, mentor allies from the community who are volunteers, who agree over a couple of years, they make a 2-year commitment to stay with that person and befriend them. And so they begin to build a community with their circle and then with the larger circle's community that meets on a weekly basis. And so we feel like that's one way that we're collaborating not just with other service providers and law enforcement and professionals, but also using the assets of the community to collaborate in creating a sustainable sustainable community for all of us, but particularly for folks who are at their most vulnerable. Shard mentioned a case that he reminded me about that I just wanted to mention. We had a woman who we were helping to serve who was actually in the law enforcement process because she had finally